Well, I think the president's done a remarkable job putting pressure on both parties, both Israel and Iran, to stop the fighting that's been going on for so long. I think what happened the other night with our B-2 stealth bombers taking out the 3 nuclear facilities sent a strong message to Iran that we're going to have peace in the region, and that can only be done through strength. I would say also that the response from Iran, they say, was proportional, even though it wasn't, but that's to me very indicative that Iran doesn't want to escalate this either. They're saying it's a proportional strike, face-saving measure for the Iranian regime to their people, but they've been hurt dramatically. Both their top leadership, the scientists, the political leaders, and the 3 nuclear sites. I don't think Iran wants to escalate this anymore. And your overture you mentioned to the Saudis just a few minutes ago, I think is very significant step forward.
Congressman, it's good to see you, and I wonder your thoughts to Kayleigh's point on maintaining this ceasefire, and more specifically, what to do with the highly enriched uranium that is still floating somewhere around Iran that we cannot locate and was apparently moved ahead of U.S. strikes. If we're not going to see weapons inspectors, for instance, in that country, how do we find it? How do we control this?
That's going to be extremely important. It has to be part of the peace agreement. And I'm glad Iran is now wanting to come to the table in good faith, which they were not before. That remaining material is very important. I've been briefed on this strike before it happened as well. It did significant damage, but they can rebuild. We need to make sure they do not rebuild these facilities and that all of the enriched uranium is accounted for so they can't build a nuclear bomb. Meanwhile, Israel is inside of Iran, and they're looking at the people of Iran. One of the problems is I have some concerns that as long as the Ayatollah and the oppressive theocracy is in power, it's going to be difficult to maintain that peace. But this president has shown the boldness, I think, in the brilliant military operation to put that kind of pressure necessary to maybe possibly achieve peace as we look at normalization talks between Israel and the rest of the Arab world, that being the Saudis and the other countries to follow.
Well, Congressman, you may have been briefed before this all went down, but many of your Democratic colleagues have been upset about that, as I'm sure you well know. And of course, there are a number of them pushing for a vote on a war powers resolution as a result. This question around congressional notification and authorization. The House Speaker, Mike Johnson, today suggested that the War Powers Act, which has been the law of the land for over 50 years now, is unconstitutional, though the Constitution obviously does say Congress is the only power that can declare war and appropriate funding for the military. What exactly is your reading of the founders' intentions here? Should we be questioning the constitutionality of the War Powers Act?
Well, the War Powers Act was an attempt to reconcile within the Constitution Article 1 that Congress has the power to declare war, which is clear. Article 2, the president is the commander-in-chief, so can conduct limited strikes, like in this case, under the self-defense argument. That has been done since 1973, since war powers. In fact, it's been done prior to that under President Truman, all the way up to modern-day history. The question will be, the War Powers Act started to kick in the day of the strikes. 60 days later, if there is sustained military action, that then does require the Congress to act with either a declaration of war or an authorized use of military force, like what we did after 9/11. So that will be the ongoing discussion, I think, in the Congress. I don't think you're going to see boots on the ground, American boots. I don't think you're going to see sustained military presence by the United States. So perhaps this will take care of itself. But we are, obviously in the Congress, we jealously guard our Article 1 powers.
That said, Congressman, if the president was acting amid the executive authority here to protect Americans against an imminent threat, does he need to show Americans the intelligence that would prove that Iran was as close to a nuclear weapon as he is suggesting? Because that would run counter to what we've heard from some others in the intelligence community. And should there be evidence that we close the deal, that the centrifuges, the nuclear facilities have in fact been destroyed, as the president says?
We do have a scheduled classified briefing on that very issue, which will be extremely important for Congress to hear. We operate on the behalf of the American people. That is the Article 1 authority. Now, when I was chairman of Foreign Affairs, I would get notification from both the Trump and Biden administrations when they use strikes, and under what authorities are they doing this. And many times it could be an AUMF authority or also self-defense, and sometimes just self-defense Article 2, which is what they did in this case. They did notify the Congress that they operate under self-defense of the immediate and present danger. Now, I would argue that the fact that they're enrichment at 60%, they could get to 90%, the threat to the Middle East, existentially to the United States, and the track record did pose a threat ultimately to the American people. They have been the largest state sponsor of terror in the region for so many years, since 1979. I hope that this action, though, this military action, will finally bring it to a head where we can finally have peace in the Middle East.
In our final moment with you, Congressman, on intelligence, the president, of course, has criticized the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. The ODNI is facing budget cuts. Does this do damage to our intelligence gathering capabilities and operations?
You know, I don't know. I wasn't in the room. I can tell you what I know, and that is that they did have enrichment capabilities to build a nuclear bomb. What they didn't have was a nuclear warhead itself. They were working on that, but they could also buy it from, say, Russia, China, North Korea. It's the nuclear warhead that they need to put the bomb in that then attaches to the ballistic missiles that can then deliver a nuclear warhead to the region. And let's not forget the intercontinental ballistic missiles they've been working on, not to go to the moon as a space program, but to deliver nuclear warheads intercontinental, that being from Iran to the United States. And that is what they were working on. And now we put it to a temporary halt.